Well, Molly, thank you so much for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. I know you're very busy.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's I was always interested in talking to this podcast is always more centered towards like fitness and nutrition and things like that. But I'm kind of a metalhead and I love rock. And one of the things that I was always interested in is how like people that are in the music industry that are so busy, you know, deal with like that kind of grind and still stay, in shape. But
Mm.
but before we get like too far into that, can you tell me like kind of how, you got into music and, what kind of drove you to live this kind of life?
I honestly can't think of a point in my life when I wasn't dead set on, well, I'm going to be a singer one day. Like, I've been saying that since I was 3 or 4 years old. So I feel like I just was born that way. I don't know. There
Hmm.
must just be something wrong with me that made me decide I want to go travel the world in a van. Something possessed me at some point to think that. And I just never had any other options I considered or anything. I was just like, yep, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sing metal. So
Hmm.
I feel like I've just been very driven towards, I'm goal oriented towards music as long as I can remember. That's just the only option I've ever had for myself.
Why specifically metal? Because it is a very like niche thing. I mean, metal definitely had its heyday. But there's other, musical options for, especially for women that have a really great voice, which I listen to a lot of your stuff you do. So like, why metal specifically?
Well, I always joke to my band members and my manager, I'm like, I would love to sing pop music, but then I would be wasting my scream. I do listen to a lot of different things like pop punk, rock,
Hmm.
metal, like a lot of different things. I'm not just like one of those metal gatekeepers who only listens to metal, but
Hmm.
I feel like I'm just drawn towards singing it because I love screaming so much. So that's kind of the only genre that's accepted in. I
Did
feel like if
you
I just
go ahead? Go ahead.
I was
I'm
gonna say I
sorry.
feel like if I just started screaming over pop music, people would be very confused and not
Yeah,
like it.
yeah, it's weird because it's like there's kind of like a more of a like an in between, like maybe like a Linkin Park or something like that, where they do
Hmm.
some screaming, but not a ton. But definitely, like if you're gonna get into it, you're gonna go full throttle into that. It probably won't be accepted in
Yeah, it
most
probably just scare
genres.
people.
Did you listen to a lot of metal when you were young? Like, who did you listen to? Who did you kind of look up to,
So I grew up
if anybody?
I grew up in a household that primarily listened to rock music, so it was always a bit
Mhm.
more like Van Halen and Pink Floyd, like
Mhm.
more the classic stuff. And then I was always drawn towards the heavier songs, the angrier songs. So I was like, okay, let's explore that genre a
Mhm.
little bit more. I discovered Marilyn Manson when I was like 9 or 10 years old. And I honestly say, like, that's what turned me. Like, that's what led me down this alternative or goth or whatever
Mhm.
label you want to put on it, genre, I guess, was
Right.
discovering his music when I was very young. I literally went out and bought black lipstick that week and was like, this is me now. And it was not a phase because 15 years later, I still dress that way and am influenced very heavily by that kind of subculture. So I feel like growing up in a family that listened to rock music definitely helped,
Mhm.
but I kind of branched off on my own and found the stuff I liked more as I grew up.
So I assume like your family was very supportive of your endeavors,
They were.
musical.
They had their
Mhm.
concerns, as every parent would, I'm sure. They're like, well, why do you want to do that? Like, you want to just go in a van across the country? But, they learned from a very young age, as they say, you can't tell Molly anything. Like, if she wants to do it, she's going to do it. I think it was my grandma who said that actually. She said when I was like 9 years old, she realized you can't tell me anything besides what I want to do because I'm just going to do it anyways. So you might as well just
Gotcha.
support me in what I'm doing.
Very headstrong. Huh?
Exactly. Once I've
Yeah.
set my mind on something, I'm just going to do it.
Got it. Got it. So, you're the lead or the only vocalist, the lead vocalist for Living Dead Girl, right? Correct.
Mhm.
And so, how did that band come about specifically?
I feel like it was a work in progress for so many years before it ever became like a public thing. I was making listings on Kijiji, which is like the Canadian Craigslist, when I was 15 or 16 years old trying to find band members. And I would have all kinds of interesting people showing up at my parents' house to audition. I have so many stories of just like complete weirdos just showing up at my parents' house. One guy refused to leave once, and it was just my mom and I there, and we were like, "Please get out of our house." Like it was so weird. And my mom was like, "Please stop putting our address on the internet. You can't do this here anymore."
So wait a minute, wait. You have to kind of go into that. Like he refused to leave. Like what happened?
He
Like you just
was
stopped.
he
Like
just like stood in the living room. So we told him to come at like 1 p.m. and he showed up at like 5. And he's like, "Oh, I missed the bus, so I was late." And I was like, "The auditions are done." Like I had other band members there, like other male band members with me at 1 p.m. We were trying to audition guitarists. And by the time they'd all left is when he showed up. And I was like, and he just came right into my house. And like I was saying, "Okay, well, you're late, you missed it. We can't audition you." The rest of the band
hmm
left. And he was just standing in my living room staring at me. My mom and I just kind of like walked towards him, trying to back him out the door.
that is nuts. It's
It
like
was
people are wild sometimes. It's just yeah, it's something I'm glad nothing, nothing happened,
right. But
with
there was
that.
years of me just like looking for band members, trying to jam with people, trying to find anyone in my tiny small town I grew up in, like, "Hey, who wants to play in a metal band with me?" And the problem was anyone who was good was already in a band, or they
Yeah.
didn't like the type of metal I wanted to do, or they're like, "Hey, I'll jam for fun, but like I don't want to play shows or something." So it was really, really difficult until finally I just kind of found my group of people, including Jordan, our current bassist. He's the only other
hmm
like original member. But so he
hmm
started jamming with me when I was 16, so 9 years ago now. And
Wow.
then nothing really happened until I just like bit the bullet, saved up as much money as I could, went to LA, self-funded an album produced by Mitchell Marlowe. He's an incredible producer who works with a lot of like much bigger bands. So that's kind of when everything started happening. It was like 2019 was when I was just
hmm
like, I got to go record an album.
Are you part of a label now? Are
We're
you under
not,
a
no,
label?
we're still
No,
independent.
still independent.
Yeah.
Um, is that like the goal to be under a label, or would you rather be stay independent?
I have a very neutral feeling towards that. I feel like it would depend on what the label is offering us, like what the deal specifically is. Because
hmm
I don't want to be like in debt owing a huge loan for the rest of my life.
Right.
But like if it makes sense to do so, if it's a good deal, I would take it. I'm just
Sure.
like hesitant. I don't want to like sign everything away and get screwed over, you know?
Right. Well, the reason I ask is you always hear these horror stories of like young artists that are really good get tied down to a terrible contract, and then,
Mhm.
they for the rest of, you know, foreseeable future, they're, in this terrible situation. So, yeah, I just wanted to get like kind of your viewpoint on that.
Yeah, I'm just
So,
very like selective, I would say. Like I've been offered ones before, had an
hmm
entertainment lawyer take a look at and go, "Nope, don't do this."
Okay. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. And I bet there's benefits to being independent. You have full, control over everything. There's
I
nobody in
do
your
like that
ear.
part.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's awesome. And how difficult was it to self-fund your own like album? Was that something that's like, does it take an extreme amount of money? Is it something that's like doable for, most people?
It's doable if you're not scared of being in credit card debt, which I am. I literally had to get so resourceful. Like I've split things between like several credit cards. At one point, my
hmm
parents loaned me some money and I paid them back a few months later. Like you just have to get really creative. There was at one point where I was working open till close at a restaurant 6 days a week. So like 10:30 in the morning till 10 at night, six
hmm
days a week for like 4 years, just like
Unbelievable.
saving up money for it. So I
Yeah.
always like to share that. I'm like, I had to scrub toilets in a restaurant just to pay for this album. Please listen to it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes people think like they'll see somebody, they'll see their music videos, or they'll see that they're in the band, and they'll see your Instagram, and you're living like sort of quote unquote like the good life, or the rock star life, and they don't really take the time to think about that, it started somewhere, and those started small, like you said, like scrubbing and cleaning, and until you eventually, got to this point. So.
Exactly. It's like there was a lot of like, not to sound cliche, but blood, sweat, and tears like behind the
Yeah,
scenes that led to the album being created.
for sure. Were you guys in so I messaged a little while back, I believe like the official Instagram for your band, and they responded that you were recording in Nashville. Were you guys recording in Nashville
Yes.
recently? How was that? Because I'm in Nashville. So how was your experience here? Was this your first time here?
Oh no, it was my fourth time. I
Okay.
want to say fourth time. I
Okay.
almost actually moved to Nashville, but then at the last second I changed my mind and ended up in Florida. But I do really love
Yeah.
Nashville.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, Nashville is great. It's, it's getting busier and busier. It's growing like exponentially. There's so many people moving here. But
Mm.
my wife is actually from Florida. Are you what city do you or around the area are you located in?
We're in Orlando.
Orlando. Okay. Did you guys get any type of like how are you with regard to the hurricanes and everything? Were you guys okay?
Oh, we were totally fine, totally
Okay.
unaffected here. I think we
Okay.
lost power for like a couple hours at most.
Well, that's good. At
Yeah.
least, that was a big deal. A lot of people ended up without power, damage, and so forth. So,
Yeah, exactly. We're lucky where we live.
yeah, great. So you're part of this band now. You have, I'm assuming are you doing tours? Do you tour?
Yes.
So what is your like how can I put this? What is your scope of like being part of this band? How much is it a lot of like recording? Is it a lot of writing? Is it a lot of touring? Like what occupies your time the most?
Honestly, it's a lot of all of the above. It's
Hmm.
basically a full-time job, and there's a lot of like back end stuff that like the public might not necessarily see. And I'm very much like hands-on control freak and like to do everything myself. So like I'm the one that like runs our website. I fulfill all of the online merch orders. Like I've already gone to the
Hmm.
post office 3 times this week. I pack all the orders and ship them. So I have like a whole merch room in my house, like a stockpile of all the
Hmm.
stuff. I answer all the emails. I have meetings with our manager. Like I just had a meeting with him today. We just check in like every week on, okay, this is what we're doing now. This is what we're
Hmm.
doing next. Today we shot an album cover. Like
Oh,
there's
nice.
so many different components. Like it's a lot more than just music. It's also creating social media content and filming music videos and practicing and rehearsing and writing and then discussing with your band like, okay, these are the tour dates we were offered. Do we want this one or not? Like there's
Sure.
so much behind the scenes that like it might look like publicly you're being quiet for a bit. Like we are
Hmm.
done touring for this year. We're gonna hibernate over the winter and just work on
Hmm.
the new album. But like it might look like we're not doing anything, but the reality is I'm sitting at my laptop just like answering emails all day.
Just constantly working
It's
nonstop.
always something, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I guess it's part of just living in the, modern social media world where, bands in the past before, social media got so popular, didn't have to worry about that, as much. But
Mm,
now you have to kind of take all that on, on your shoulders. So, but
mm.
hey, I mean, you seem like you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
So with the touring, with all this work, that you just discussed, back to backtrack what we talked about in the very beginning. I know that you're also, you model and do some other things. How do you keep yourself upbuilt, physically, mentally? Like, is there a routine that you follow, some sort?
So it's much easier when I'm at home because I can purposely set aside time to exercise. Like I can go to
Hmm.
the gym 4 or 5 days a week. I can go for long walks around my neighborhood or long walks around Disney World for that matter. But like I'm very, very active at home. So then when I'm on tour, it is a little hard not to get stir crazy sitting like
Hmm.
in a bus for an 18-hour drive. So I do feel really sluggish and disgusting on tour a lot of the time. So what really helps me not get too out of it every time that I am traveling is just trying to be as strict as I can with food.
Hmm.
So it's very difficult on tour because most of the time your only option is fast food, and I'm very, very against fast food. I don't think it is food. I don't like processed food at
Yeah.
all, really.
Yeah.
Like I like to cook every single thing I eat from scratch so I know what's in it. And I don't like things that are like not organic or super refined sugar. Like I don't like any of that stuff. So
Hmm.
when it's 3 in the morning and I'm in the middle of nowhere and Taco Bell's the only option, it really like hurts my soul to
Yeah. Yeah.
have to eat it. But I feel like I've gotten really good at just knowing, okay, like if this is my only option, like what to order. Like I don't drink soda. I don't, when we go into the Love's gas station, I don't get candy or
Hmm.
any of the other junky snacks that, not talking shit, boys, but the boys in my band all like they eat candy and drink soda stuff. They all stay skinny and they're lucky, but I can't do that. So I always say that to them too. I'm like, if I only have $5 to eat right now after a show, I'm not spending $5 on a chocolate bar. I'd rather spend it on a taco because I want the protein.
Right. Good
So I've
point.
just gotten really good at picking. It's like, all right, I've got $5. What is the most protein? And I try to find like meat or something like. And when we had the RV on tours, it really helped because we had a fridge, so I could buy jugs of cottage cheese and hummus and just anything with protein. Because as long as I
Yeah.
eat protein, I'm good.
So what's your like ideal meal? Like if you had to pick a meal that that you would want to eat, like what is your favorite?
The best thing would be to have like a big spinach salad with grilled chicken on it. Because I
Mhm.
find if I don't have vegetables, I feel disgusting. Like I feel like I'm rotting if I don't eat vegetables.
My
Not
my
like not
wife
to sound
Go ahead. My wife
sorry.
always tells me like it's like you gotta start eating more vegetables, and I'm like, but I just love this meat, and I just keep eating it. But you're right. It's like if vegetables are so important, and people kind of downplay it. It's like they don't
Mhm.
realize. We're me and my wife are both in the medical field, and it's so important because your colon is such a huge, like it affects so much in your body, and
Mm.
vegetables are extremely important to make sure that that's functioning appropriately, and people just don't give it the due diligence.
Yeah, like my ideal thing to eat, like especially before a show when I need energy, it's like I want like chicken or something with protein, but nothing too greasy, like beef or anything fried,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
I don't want to have like acid reflux when I'm on stage trying to
Yeah,
sing.
yeah.
And then,
So yeah, go
sorry,
ahead. Go ahead. I'm
I was gonna
sorry.
say the absolute arch nemesis of singers is pizza, and so many venues for some reason just give us pizza as if it's a form of currency or something.
Mm.
Like every single time you pull up to a venue, they're like, "We have pizza,"
It's
and I'm
probably
like,
easy. It's
It's
probably just
easy, it's
easy. They just
cheap."
yeah.
But I refuse to eat pizza before a show because the dairy just like makes your throat all gunky, and then the
Hmm.
tomato gives you like that burning acid reflux, and then the carbs of the crust just makes me tired. So you mix all those things together. Every time I've ever eaten pizza before I'm on stage, I'm literally jumping on stage sweating, thinking I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid foods like that on tour.
So what I was gonna ask when you said that, have you ever had like a situation where it's so bad that you had to like take a pause or like step away or anything like that? Or did for now you've been able to kind of, fight through it?
You're just honestly, there's so much pressure of I cannot cancel the show. People came to see me. It doesn't matter if you've been in the bathroom all day and you feel like you're dying. Like
Hmm.
you just have to like drink water or tea or something and
Just suck
just
it
tell
up.
yourself I'm fine, it's good, and just go out there. Like there were times where we were playing in like Texas and the middle of summer in a heat wave. It was like 110 degrees outside.
Good Lord.
And like we're from Canada, we're not used to this
Right.
shit. Like we're just like, what the heck is this? And then so the van's air conditioning wasn't working. We were all just like sitting in the van in our underwear, sweating, and we felt so sick. And then we all ate tacos.
Oh, that
And I
can't be
remember
good.
then we played in a venue that had no air conditioning. So I remember I felt like I had kind of like maybe some heat stroke or heat exhaustion.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I was just so dehydrated from all the sweating. And the only
Yeah.
thing I'm allowed to drink on tour is hot water because cold water is bad for your vocal cords. So my vocal cords
Oh,
had
wow.
no cold
Okay.
water. So I'm sitting there in this like 110-degree venue with no air conditioning, drinking like my boiled water out of a thermos.
It
And I
sound it sounds like the worst like possible conditions put together in one moment. Like you're
exactly.
dehydrated, you're drinking boiled water. I mean, that's unreal. I can't even imagine having to go through that.
Yeah, like you're just like so clammy and shaky and you just feel weak. And it's like, all right, I'm gonna go headbang and scream for 45 minutes. Wish me luck.
So like in a situation like that, like afterwards, can you drink cold water, or you're basically the entire time on tour you're drinking hot water? You're
The
never
entire
like
time I just drink hot
okay,
water.
yeah,
The only
yeah.
time I had any cold drinks was I was buying cold pressed juices because I found at Costco they had like a 12 pack of like spinach and kale juice.
Hmm.
And that was like the cheapest way for me to get vegetables on tour
Hmm.
without having to,
Hmm.
spend like $12 on a half rotten Love's truck stop salad
Yeah,
that's been sitting there for a week. So I
yeah,
started
yeah.
cold pressed juices just to get some, more
At
nutrients.
least something, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, just so I felt less like I was dying, and but that was the only time I drank anything cold.
less like you were dying. That's a good line.
I always tell people that I'm like on tour when you meet us, like we are trying our best to be in a good mood and put it like be on, put the face
Hmm.
on, be friendly and happy, and it's like, but we all just want to throw up.
Sure, sure. And that's like whenever I go see like bands and stuff, I always think about the fact like what it takes them to actually like get to the stage and perform and act like I mean, I'm sure they're having a great time like to a degree, but it's a lot of work so that they also
Mm.
want to make sure that they make the time that the audience is having a great time because they, they paid to be there, they wanted to see them. So
Mm.
it always takes a lot of work. Like I always think about that. I'm like, man, it's not only is it physically taxing, but I bet it's also emotionally, mentally taxing as well. Would you like agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very like emotionally taxing too, just like not being home for weeks. Like I've got
Hmm.
cats and stuff, and I'm like, I'm just like a few states away, like in a van, just like
Yeah.
this is so weird.
Yeah. That's fine. So what about like so that's kind of like your nutrition aspect. I know you talked about like walking around. Do you like what is your workouts consist of like, on a regular basis? Is it more cardio based? Do you weight lift? Like how does that work for you?
I'm more at like at a point where I do more weightlifting than anything.
Okay.
Although I was just saying to my husband again today, I was like, I need to do more cardio because this morning I did cardio and I was like, my stamina is not what it used to be a couple years ago. Like I felt like it had depleted a little bit. So I'm like, okay, I
Hmm.
got to do more cardio. But basically, I just follow him around the gym and just do all the same workouts that like this
Nice.
muscular man does. I just do them with less weight, but I just said he's like my free personal trainer. So it's a
Nice.
lot of weightlifting.
Nice. That's awesome. Like when we got married, my wife never weightlifted, and then eventually she kind of started following like what I was doing, and then she got
Mm.
to a point where she's just doing, her own thing. Like she weightlifts on her own, she does her own stuff, and so it's a really like a cool thing to be able to do it like together too.
Yeah.
It's an experience that kind of like brings you kind of closer, to I mean if you're into that, if you're into the
Yeah.
gym, yeah. I mean, some people hate it. They're like, "Hey, I don't want to go to the gym. Why would I do that?"
Yeah. I think it's
Man.
definitely important to like share a lifestyle when you're married to
Sure.
someone though. Like if he wanted to get up and go to the gym, but I wanted to just like stay home and eat chips on the couch, I don't think
Hmm.
that'd be a very healthy relationship
No,
environment.
probably not. Probably
No,
not.
you have to be on the same page,
At
like with
least,
health.
right. At least like to a certain degree, I mean, that
Yeah.
we don't you don't have to be a maniac, maybe like your partner if your partner really like goes to the gym a lot or something like that, but it has to be like somewhat on the same wavelength.
Mm, definitely.
So, how does your husband also is he also involved in the music industry or?
Yes, so he's actually our drummer.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that works out. So now you guys have a whole life together then, not only the weightlifting, but the actual music part of it as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. He said he was going to fill in for 2 weeks, but that was
Hmm.
2 years ago.
Yeah. So he's been
So
filling in for
we
2 years.
needed a
Nice.
drummer.
2
He
weeks.
stepped in. Now he's still here.
Yeah, awesome. Do you play any instruments yourself or you just do vocals?
I play instruments a little bit. I honestly
Mhm.
should practice more, and I keep beating myself up to do that. It's just whenever I do have like free time to sit down, I always gravitate back towards just singing. Like I
Sure.
play a tiny bit of guitar, a tiny bit of piano. I do play
Hmm.
guitar live sometimes just for like a couple songs, just to
Hmm.
add some dynamic to the live show, just add something to it. But
Sure.
honestly, like I'm not gonna learn how to shred and sing at the same time. Like I'm not that talented.
So like so you guys are done with touring for now, right? So are you planning, do you have a date when you guys are going to be picking back touring back up next year or is that just still like up for debate?
We are booking some stuff for next year, but the main
Hmm.
focus right now is we are recording an album. So that's kind of like taking up a lot of our, our time and our financial resources and everything, and a lot
Sure.
of our creative energy. So we did just like go back to the studio 2 weeks ago, and
Hmm.
we go back early next year again as well. I just keep doing it in short trips because I just take
Hmm.
like a $30 Spirit flight up to Nashville, record for a few days, come back. I'm not trying to like stay there for a month or anything because once you get tired, it's like
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
same. You got to come back with fresh ears, fresh vocal cords, fresh mindset, and everything. So I just kind of keep going back and forth with the studio and putting together the new album.
When you record, when you fly down and you record, are you recording like one or two songs at a time? Like how do you break it up?
It's kind of all over the place. Like
Hmm.
sometimes we do like a song a day. Honestly, I
Okay.
work so fast with our producer that like I'll say, this is what I want. I want it to sound like this. I'll show him a reference. I'll show him my lyrics. He just like pulls an instrumental out of thin air, and then all of a sudden
Hmm.
it's like been 5 hours and we're done a song.
Is that like a very enjoyable process for you to record?
Honestly, I think recording is my favorite part of the whole
Hmm.
music thing. Like more than playing live shows, more than anything, I love being in the studio because
Yeah.
that's like the actual like creation process versus like performing is very fun. It's like an adrenaline rush.
Hmm.
I like connecting with audiences and everything, but like actually having an idea and then putting it out there and seeing it like become a thing is
Sure.
my favorite part of the whole thing.
That's awesome. Is there a date for or estimated date for the album or no? Still, you're still working kind of everything through.
It's still up in the air, but I'm
Mhm.
estimating we'll probably release it next summer or fall.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Well, that'll be exciting. Is that what album is this for you guys?
It's technically number three. I'm
Three.
calling it album number two though, because our second album was an EP of covers. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of don't want to fully count it because I didn't write those songs. So if you're counting like a full length album of all originals, it's number two.
Did you do an cover for? Is it was it Christina Aguilera?
Yes, by her.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good cover.
Thank you.
I was listening to like random stuff from you as I was just driving and running some errands today, and I came across that one and it was really cool. I like that. I
Thank
like your
you.
rendition of it. Yeah,
It
awesome.
was funny when the first time I went and recorded it, I showed it to my band members and they thought I wrote the song because they didn't know the original. And I was like laughing at all these 30-year-old men going, "You don't know this Christina Aguilera song?" And they're like, "No."
That's hilarious.
I'm like, "You
Yeah.
didn't grow up listening to this?" And they're just like, "No."
Yeah, that's funny. Well, like that's kind of like, Taylor Swift is so popular now and everybody knows her music. I don't, it's not my style. I don't really listen, to that kind of music. So when people talk about it or they'll say stuff, they're like, "Oh, you don't know this." I'm like, I just don't. I'm sorry. It's like
Yeah.
it's nothing against it. It's just not my style, And
Yeah, you're
so
not the target audience for
I'm
it.
not, yeah, I'm definitely not the target audience for it.
I
You
could
take one
not name
look at me.
a Taylor Swift song.
Say what?
I could not name one Taylor Swift song.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, yeah.
Besides the really old ones when she used to sing like countryish music that came out
Hmm.
when I was like 10 years old and they played them at school dances, like You Belong With Me, kind of like I can name
Right.
that song. But whatever she's doing now, I couldn't tell you a single song.
It's insane how big she blew up. Like, 'cause I mean, she was always considered to be talented, but I mean the kind of uh prices that they're asking for her tickets is like insane.
Oh,
I
I
mean
know.
thousands and thousands, thousands of dollars. I'm like, yeah, it's wild. It's
Yeah, I
wild.
can't imagine spending that on one day.
No, no, no. Well, we have Metallica coming to Nashville in May that I really want to go see, and their tickets are a little bit on the pricier side. But I'm like, they're an old band. Who knows how long they're going to be around anymore? I'm like, I need to
Yeah.
go see them. So, but Molly, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on, so thank you for taking the time out of your day.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, and if somebody wanted to like reach out to you or listen to your music, like where would be the easiest way for them to find uh your stuff?
So we are very active on every single social media. So if they want to reach out to us, they can message Instagram, Facebook, not
Hmm.
Twitter though. I don't really use Twitter. So
Got it.
minus that one. TikTok, everything else though, I'm very active on. So if they follow us, comment, message, I'm always on there responding. And for music, we're on Spotify, Pandora, Deezer, Apple Music, Amazon Music. I can't even name them all off the top of my head, but any music
Yeah.
platform you can think of, we are on there.
All right. And guys, I'm gonna link everything at the bottom as much of everything which you said. I'll try to link to make it easier for everybody to find you
Perfect.
guys. So, all right, awesome. Thank you so much, and you have a great evening.
Thank you. You as well.
Take care. Bye bye.